Hello, I'm Dr. Elden Golden, and I teach in the MA and PhD programs here at Union. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you about the play An Enemy of the People and what we can learn from the play about leadership in general and about followers in particular. I hope you've all read the chapter in the text by McManus and Perucci. I won't go over that chapter in detail, but I want to underscore a few points they make about the play and then build on that with some ideas of mine in regard to the family and to the relationship between power and leadership. If you haven't read the play, An Enemy of the People, I would encourage you to do so, even if you don't get to it until after the course is over. It's a beautiful, thought-provoking play that can be read in a couple of hours. Or if you like, you can find several full-length videos of the play on YouTube. In brief, the play presents events that take place over the course of 3 days in the life of a small town. Just outside of town is a hot spring, and the town leaders long wanted to develop a spa or mineral bath that would attract tourists. Years of planning have finally come to fruition. A public-private consortium was put together to develop the idea. Baths have been built, and a pipeline built to bring the waters into the city. The city is looking forward to better times financially, more jobs for local people, more taxes collected from the business, and more monies spent by visitors to the city. The play is set just prior to the scheduled opening of the baths. The conflict at the heart of this play, and all plays have a conflict at their core, involves three men: Peter Stockman, the mayor of the city; Dr. Stockman, his brother and medical officer for the baths; and Morton Kill, the wealthy owner of a tannery and father-in-law to Dr. Stockman. Dr. Stockman suspects that the water piped into the city for the baths is contaminated, so he collected a sample and sent it off to a nearby university for analysis. As the play opens, he receives the results of the analysis, and his fears are confirmed that the water is in fact contaminated, and anyone who uses the baths will be sickened. He sets out to let the city know of his discovery, and fully expects to be hailed as a hero for preventing a horrible public health disaster. He is, in every sense, a whistleblower. His brother, the mayor, Peter Stockman, is not at all happy to hear the news and does everything in his power to thwart Dr. Stockman's efforts at publicizing the news of the contaminated water. He is focused on the economic effect of the news. The third member of this conflict is Morton Kill, who is a wealthy owner of a tannery located upstream from town. We learn later in the play that it is his tannery that is causing the contamination, the tannery that has made him a wealthy man, and the wealth that Dr. Stockman, his wife, and their children are set to inherit upon Morton Kill's death. Morton absolutely rejects the idea that microscopic beings exist in the water or that they cause disease. Remember, this play was written in the 1880s. For him, the scientific evidence is not only incredible, but is just too ridiculous to be taken seriously. He rejects science in every way. He also ends up using his financial wealth to blackmail Dr. Stockman and force him to renounce his crusade against the contaminated water. The other major player in the play is the media, the town's newspaper, and this is represented by several characters. Unlike the three main characters who each stick to a single position, the media is fickle and swings repeatedly and wildly in its allegiance. First to Dr. Stockman as savior of the city, and then against Dr. Stockman as an enemy of the people for bringing unwanted bad news and hardship just at the moment of the city's impending financial triumph. The play was written in 1882 by the Norwegian playwright Henrik Ibsen. In the 1870s and 1880s, he wrote a series of plays that challenged middle-class assumptions about themselves. As a result, he was famous but not terribly popular and certainly not loved. His plays stirred and shocked his contemporaries. It was the very people who attended the theater that were the target of his criticism more often than not. The Pillars of the Community, a play written in 1877, dealt with secrets surrounding syphilis, and A Doll's House from 1879 depicted a woman who yearned for a life beyond that of a mother and wife. That play ends with her simply walking away from her husband, children, home, and her middle-class financial security in order to lead what she described as a real life of her own making instead of an artificial life in A Doll's House. The play The Wild Duck, written in 1884 just after An Enemy of the People, dealt with a woman who felt trapped in a life that was stifling and oppressive. The only option she believes she has at the end of the play is to kill herself with her husband's pistol. In the play, the shot is heard off stage just before the curtain falls. I offer this brief summary of his other plays to underscore the idea that his plays were not light entertainment, but dealt with meaningful issues that were uncomfortable and difficult for people to talk about, issues that are still often difficult to talk about. In the 1950s, at the height of the Red Scare and Senator Joe McCarthy's House Un-American Activities Committee, the American playwright Arthur Miller adapted this play in an effort to expose the power of media manipulation and unfounded innuendo. Just as those tools were used by Senator McCarthy in his witch hunt of innuendo and allegations against people of different political persuasions, the changes that Arthur Miller made to the play were actually quite minimal and are seen more in the details than in the overall structure or message. One difference can be seen at the end, when Dr. Stockman has lost his job and income, and he and his family are huddled in a borrowed home as stones are thrown through the window by an angry mob outside the house. Miller made this scene much more terrifying, with the distinct possibility that the crowd would not be satisfied with a few symbolic broken windows, but were intent on causing real injury to the family. Like most great plays or other works of art, this play can be understood in many different ways and can be read to speak to many different issues. It is not a stretch to say that this play can be read to address all of the following issues. Family dynamics. The play addresses the relationship within a nuclear family, among extended family members, intergenerational conflicts, the parent-child relationship, and even sibling rivalry. The play addresses industrial pollution. It's at the center of the drama. And so the relationship between environment and public policy, public health, and economic development are all key. The relationship between government and business is examined. How closely should the two be connected? What responsibility does each have to the other? And who bears the financial burden when things go wrong? Businesses or the taxpayers? The role of science in public policy is addressed. Can science be rejected if it doesn't fit your worldview or your political view? If so, what is the effect of that rejection? The role of the media and social critics is addressed. Are they a benefit to the public, or should they be ignored or even silenced for the sake of the public? Whose interests should the media represent? What does the public have a right to know about how their taxes are being spent? Do they have a right to the details of government business endeavors when tax money is used? The play also addresses gender. Do mothers and fathers have a different relationship or a different set of responsibilities to their children? Finally, is the majority always right? If not, Who can override the majority, and how do they do it? Can democracy be a bad thing? Can the majority be tyrannical? How do we know when the majority is tyrannical, and what can or should we do about it? Even though the play was written in 1882, every one of these issues in this list is remarkably modern and applicable to our world today. I mean, we can see nearly all of those issues coming up in our current presidential campaign in one way or another. With all of these potential issues woven throughout the play, I'm going to focus on just those that directly implicate leadership. This is where I would refer you again to the chapter by McManus and Perucci. They present an exceptional analysis of the role of followers. They apply several different theories of followership to this play that illuminate the crucial role that followers play and the different types of followers that exist. Not all followers are the same by any degree. Can anyone be called a leader if they don't have followers? Is it the followers who make the leader? What can you learn about the leader by identifying and understanding the followers? One question that needs to be asked about the play is whether the play depicts a case of well-intentioned but demonstrably bad leadership by all involved. Is it that each of the possible leaders in this play are so narrowly focused on their own agenda and so confident, maybe even overconfident, in the correctness of their own position that they simply cannot recognize or deal with the complexity of real leadership? Another point to be made is that all of the characters in this play are well-intentioned. They all want what they believe is the best for the city, and it is only at the end of the play that any of the characters begin to display animus. Excuse me. And even then, the animus is limited to just one or two characters. That is one of the things that makes this play so interesting. There aren't clear villains or heroes. This play ends badly for just about everyone, and it is easy to blame the villains when things go bad. But what if things go bad and there isn't a clear villain? That seems to be the case here. One of the issues that I'd like to address here is the role of family. Ibsen chose to put all of the important power relationships between family members. The three main characters identified earlier, Dr. Stockman, Peter Stockman, and Morton Kill, are all family members related by blood or marriage. I would add to that list Mrs. Stockman and Petra Stockman, the wife and daughter of Dr. Stockman as well. They both represent distinct positions, and they each take leadership roles at various times, even if briefly. The story could have been told just as easily if these individuals were not related at all. That raises the question of why Ibsen chose to make them all family members. It's not unlike ancient Greek dramas that often put a political conflict within a single family, such as the plays Antigone by Sophocles or Electra by Euripides. Ibsen might simply be reflecting that historical precedent, but he also might be making a larger point that the roles of leader, follower, disruptor, peacemaker, enabler, inspirer, etc. are formed or modeled on family relationships. How we lead and how we follow are shaped and learned at home. McManus and Perucci make an important point that it is not always clear who the leader is and who the follower is. The characters of Dr. Stockman and Peter Stockman in particular vie for leadership throughout the play, and at times each is the leader and at other times a follower. Leadership switches between the two of them repeatedly, sometimes very quickly, and at other times it is not at all clear who the leader is or even if there is a leader. Also, at times, both of them use surrogates as leaders. either because the surrogates may be more credible or persuasive in a particular situation, or because they don't want to be held responsible for what the surrogate leader does. This can be seen in particular when Peter Stockman, the mayor, sets up Aslaksen as the chairman of the town meeting to destroy Dr. Stockman's position in the community and brand him an enemy of the people. Peter Stockman clearly wants this to happen to his brother, but doesn't want to be personally responsible for the serious injury his brother is about to suffer. Think about your own family. If you are a parent now, or think of your childhood family, was one specific person always the leader and the rest of the family members always followers? Or did it change from time to time? What made it change, and how can you tell? Was it a matter of who was being followed? Was it a matter of who simply took charge? Was it a matter of who had authority or power at the moment? Was a child in your family ever the leader, even for a short period of time? If so, how did they find themselves as leaders? Can leadership be bestowed by others choosing to be followers, if only for a short time or for a specific moment? I'd also like to briefly discuss the relationship between power and leadership, or the obverse, the relationship between followers and the lack of power. One way of looking at this play is to ask yourself the following questions at any given point. Who has political or governmental power? Who has economic power? Who has the power of knowledge? Who has the power of the media? Who has the power over the masses? Or the reverse, who doesn't have political or governmental power? Who doesn't have economic power? Who doesn't have the power of knowledge? And who doesn't have the power of the media? And who doesn't have the power over the masses? In identifying those who holds or doesn't hold the power, is that the same as determining who has leadership or who is a follower? Can a person voluntarily choose to be a follower regardless of the power they hold? Can they voluntarily set their power aside and choose to be a leader? And is this voluntary choice to be a follower, is that limited to people who have power and thus have a choice? Do people without power have a choice to be a follower, or are they destined to be a follower? Are the issues of power synonymous with the issues of leadership, or the lack of power synonymous with being a follower? This play asks that question. Now, of course, it doesn't answer that question. It raises a lot of possibilities, but it leaves the viewer of the play to ponder those questions and come to their own conclusions. As stated earlier, I do hope that you read this play if you haven't done so. It's a brilliant play. It is one of those plays that underlines that notion of sometimes the questions are more important than the answers. And this play raises any number of crucially important questions that I think are important to ponder and to come to terms with on your own. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy this play.